time, we want to stay here at home, but talk about what's happening in the North Carolina State Capitol in Raleigh. So today, North Carolina lawmakers weighing changes to involuntary commitment laws and how to provide more psychiatric beds. This after the suspect in the murder of Irina Zaruska had a long criminal and mental health history. WCNC Charlotte's Julie Kay got a chance to peek in on that meeting there. Yeah, this is one of those stories. Again,
there's a lot going on here.
A lot going on. I was trying to figure out where to start with that, but yeah, a lot going on with this story.
The meeting was 3 hours, and that is just the tip of the iceberg to kind of put that into perspective. So let me start on a very macro level of what's happening.
I was trying to figure out where to start. Yep. Thank you.
Okay, so today, North Carolina General Assembly, a committee is talking about changes to involuntary commitment laws. That is people who are dealing with mental health crises, who need full-time care, but don't go seek that themselves. It's a family member that goes to a court magistrate and says, my family member needs help, please admit them. At the same time, we do not have enough psychiatric beds to meet the need. So that means that people are getting out earlier, maybe, than they should. They are relying more heavily on outpatient services or non-state mental health clinics that then have a strain, so it's kind of a trickle down. And sometimes, in very rare cases, there's instances of violence. And that brings us to Mecklenburg County. That brings us to DeCarlos Brown Jr., who's accused of killing Irina Zaruska on the light rail back in August. Now, just want to preface with very rare for mental health situations to end up in that situation. This is a very particular situation. But of course, it kind of opens the can of worms for a larger discussion about we don't have the resources to deal with stuff like this before it happens. And so that is what they were discussing today, not just this case in Mecklenburg County, but the overall shortage across the state of psychiatric beds. What's interesting is that we do have beds, they just aren't able to be staffed. So some of the solutions they talked about were, yes, more facility, but also more people trained to do that job. Can we make it easier for people to get that certification without risking quality? Can we, partner with a school to encourage people to go into that line of work that's, very difficult, of course, that requires a lot of necessary training to get there? How can we encourage more people to go that route? More, for some people, more helpful outpatient services, increasing that, increasing the time that people can be, outpatient committed, which might mean, for example, having medication and having checkups to make sure they're actually taking it. In DeCarlos Brown Jr.'s case, he was at one point involuntary committed, but released after a couple of weeks, diagnosed with schizophrenia, and given medication. He went on to have multiple other instances with law enforcement and was not involuntarily committed again. And so that's one of the things that we're looking at is why did that happen? How can we fix it? And then there's the whole issue of funding. How do we pay for that? We don't have a state budget, so
And that's the reoccurring theme, especially here. We've heard it from Sheriff Gary McFadden. We've heard it from city council members when it comes to enforcing Irina's law related to this.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's next? 'Cause I've gotten that question before with the story, and I'm like, I don't know.
So this committee, which everyone I've talked to on both sides of the aisle says, it's really in good faith that they are trying to figure this out, and everyone seems to be hoping for a bipartisan solution. Because that's not really what this is about. This is less about politics and more about a very clear need that the state has had for a long time. They're going to meet again in a month. In terms, though, of actual funding to back stuff up, the state budget isn't supposed to be discussed really, or at least April at the earliest is when Senator Berger is saying that we'll have some sort of vote. That's already a well overdue state budget, as you know. And so at the same time of, we want to raise pay for, law enforcement, for teachers, for some, fields that are related to stuff like this. We're now dealing with kind of the back pay of that too, of we already have this gap that's been created by pushing it off for almost a year. And so I don't know how long it's going to take them to get to this part of it, is what I'm saying. You know what I mean? We have a timeline for what's next for the actual, meetings and committees, but in terms of an actual actionable solution, I don't know.